The Detroit Lions just got some really good draft news. PFF has come out with their ultimate draft guide, and I went through it. It's like basically every player, and just in depth with PFF. I like PFF. Some people don't like it, but I mean, in general, it's pretty cool just to see different metrics and that sort of thing. So the good news is that I started to look at some second round players, and in this video, we're going to look at second round players, third round players that will be available for the Lions. And if you look at what PFF had to put out, you look at some other publications, it's like, oh my gosh, there are great players available, and we have the GM that's going to nail it in the draft. And that's what's really fun because you look at teams that pick high year after year, the Jets, the Giants, the Commanders, um, who else? Panthers lately. Us, the Lions used to, right? All the time. And yet they still can't get it right. They're always not good and they have to, they're always drafting high. Well, it just shows that yes, aside from a couple like can't miss prospects every year, like it's probably 5 or 6. Outside of that, it's like got to be a good GM, got to have good scouting and got to make it work. So the guy I want to highlight is Chris Jenkins from Michigan. Now I'm a Michigan fan, so that's good and bad when you look at scouting these guys, just because your emotions play into it, and you're like, oh, he's the best, or you don't like him. I mean, Chris Jenkins is perfect because I think he is really good. I mean, we're going to look at that and back that up with PFF. And the point here that I'm trying to make is the Lions pick 61. This is just one mock draft. Mock draft has him going 54. So just generally a second round pick, late second round pick, which I think makes sense for Chris Jenkins. But you go over to this PFF guide that they put out, and this is what I'm saying here. They just go in depth, and we'll kind of highlight some of the things that make him a great fit for the Lions. We did a video a couple days ago talking about how the Lions have brought in a ton of, or not ton, but a lot of corners and defensive linemen in for the top 30 visits. And the top 30 visits, that's designed to just be, you can get to know guys better. And so Chris Jenkins is not one of those guys, but I'm sure they spent some time with him at a local pro day. But defensive line is something that the Lions want to get right. They added DJ Reader, they have Aleem McNeil, but they've missed everywhere else. Levi Onwuzurike is one of those guys that they missed on. And Chris Jenkins is that perfect player. 6'3", 300 pounds. Here's some strengths and weaknesses. So well, first of all, player traits. His first step and explosiveness, his balance and play strength. And I agree with all these that I'm seeing here. His strengths holds up very well versus double teams. Absolutely. Pound for pound might be the strongest player in the class. Love that. Now, some of the weaknesses, shorter arms, and it's just short arms, short arms, short arms. First step upfield and pass rush is not as explosive as his lateral step. Okay, fine. So we're just kind of going through it here, but here's what I want you to see. His PFF grade from 21 to 23 got better every year. Snaps went down in 23, which actually makes sense because the Michigan defense was so loaded, didn't need him as much. They rotated in constantly, but for Michigan defensive player, he actually played a lot. So he's got run defense snaps 187, pass rush. So my point is, you're looking through this and you're seeing all these different things, all really good stuff. Take some time to pause the video if you need to look at some of these really good stuff. But here's what's cool about his they did this metric here where you look at his run stop percentage, his pass rush grade, true pass sets, run defense. And so what you've got a triangle metrics. And so, or triangle matrix, the more that's filled in, the better. So you see other guys in this list where it's like skewed way to the left or top right. He almost has the entire thing filled out. And again, this is a second round defensive lineman that you can get, that is going to be available, these types of players. And so as you dig deeper into what they're doing, it's like, let's go, right? So if you look at advanced data, so I think this advanced data is if you kind of extrapolate it out as if he were to play more snaps like what he should have. He just didn't play as many snaps literally because they just didn't need him on the field. So you look at it, tied for second in the NCAA, tied for sixth, like all of his batted passes, 31st, run stops. Like the dude is just really good. And then here's the final thing I want you to see here. If you look at his alignment in 2023, it's alignment plus his grade. So when he was over the tackle, right over here, which he could be a defensive lineman and out wide, like a wide defensive lineman, or excuse me, defensive tackle, or he could be like a squeezed in D end. His PFF grade was 81. Now, when you got him in the true inside in the A gap, it was 55. So he's almost a D end edge setter guy rather than a true D tackle, which makes sense as well. So it's like, all right, is he the guy opposite of Hutch, or do you use him as a D tackle and widen him out at times? Stuff that you get to see and kind of look at. I mean, this is just, yeah. And then it goes into Byron Murphy. Okay, so really cool from PFF. You have to pay for that, so it's, I don't know, it's worth it, I guess. But if you look at it now, let's look at a third or fourth rounder. Willie Roberts, Louisiana Tech. So he was the guy in the thumbnail that's just long. He's like, he's the guy that you're going to get in the fourth, fifth round corner. That's like, these are the types of players that Brad Holmes is going to have available at his expense, that it's like, let's go. So he earned PFF grades of 72.5 above in each of his last 2 seasons at Louisiana Tech, but was particularly good this past season. He allowed 15 receptions and tallied 10 interceptions and pass breakups across 331 coverage snaps. So what they're saying, basically, 300 snaps and he allowed 15 receptions. And, half of those were like bubble screens or little quick plays, so, he probably gave up like 7 true like passes, which is just crazy. And he combined for 10 interceptions and pass breakups. So what I'm trying to say here in this video is there will be guys available for Brad Holmes to take and to really flex his muscles like he has in the past, because I think we're all a little nervous, just because, not nervous, but just like, man, for the longest time we picked in the top 10. Then when Brad Holmes got here, they were terrible. We picked like second or whatever, or, we're picking terrible. And then we make the Stafford trade. So we have 2 first-round picks for multiple years there, plus an extra third. We just had a ton of picks, premium picks. And it's almost like Brad Holmes can't mess that up. But instead, Brad Holmes trades, does all the right things, and it works out. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on this one. And make sure to join us live for the NFL draft. And we'll see all of you on the next one.